Alright everyone, at last it's time for Occult Literature video number 150, the Ars Paulina, the Pauline art. 44 pages long, so it's not as long as the Gosha. This is one of the works of the Lemegeton. It's one of the works of the Lesser Keys. Essentially you have the Ars Gosha, which is basically black magic. The Thursia Gosha, which is sort of gray magic, but it's similar in its vein, and that's sort of a mid-length work. The Paulina, which is shorter, and then the Almadel, and then you have the Notoria, which shouldn't be rolled up with the Lesser Keys. It's totally different magical tradition, centuries older than the other works. It's not from the same era of manufacture. I'll link, as always, in the description to my edition of this work on Amazon. Second and third links to my books blogs. This is a grimoire. So if you're interested in that kind of work, you want the Grand Grimoire, the Grimorium Verum, the Black Pullet, the Ars Gosha, I've got you covered. There's a grimoire section in both of my literary blogs. This is edition 150, so I will be taking a month or so to do side projects. I've already arranged all my files. It took me hours, but I finally got it accomplished. I'm getting a new USB drive as well. I'm redoing my archives. So this is number 150. For a while, I've got other projects to do. I have to reformat some older works. I'm creating a comprehensive list today and tomorrow of works and what needs to be done in them, so I can go through point by point and just ram them out as quickly as possible. I figure that'll occupy me through the middle of June, probably. It's going to take longer than I anticipated. Now, the Ars Paulina, strictly speaking, is white magic. It has nothing to do with demons. In fact, it's summoning angels. You build a table of practice, which is sort of an altar. And then you're creating, out of various components, different seals, which stand for these different angels for the hours of the day. There are 24 of them. And then their subjugates, their various dukes, and their legions of angelic helpers. And then there are 12 for the, essentially, what amounts to the signs of the zodiac. Now, this isn't technically an astrological work as well. It relies upon taking astrological readings using the tropical system for every day and hour, essentially. So it's a little bit more intense than the Ars Gosha. In the Ars Gosha, you're making these seals, performing certain invocations at certain times, attendant with certain other practices, and it requires the usual chastity and wear the layman, and this is the sword of the art and stuff of that nature. But it's less complicated than drawing up rather complex astrological calculations. You're going to need an astrological guide to do this, because it doesn't supply its own. And also, I would point out, in regards to this, I've cleaned up this work considerably. The invocations I left in the Old English that it was originally presented in. Everything else I had to go through and modernize. All the astrological symbols that were present as symbols themselves, in order for beginners at this to be able to understand what a circle with a little dot in it means the sun, or the crescent, which is the moon, symbols for Mars and Mercury, and for the zodiac signs and stuff. I've rendered that into plain English. That was the major contribution to this work, and it's been re-illustrated by my usual illustrator. She also did the work for the Gosha, Rita Metzner. So this doesn't have the primitive illustration quality of the earlier works that I'm trying to clean up, where I very crudely did it myself. For the most part, I did a halfway decent job. It's legible and proper, but it's not great. I need to go back. I want Miss Metzner to render basically about a dozen of my earlier works. For that, it'll take longer because, of course, you have to pay an illustrator. But yes, this is an exceptional work, and it is important in that it's part of the Lesser Keys tradition. I will, in the future, once the Thursia Gosha and the Almadel are done, and the Almadel can't be released on its own. It's only like 4 pages. Once these are all done, they're going to be wrapped up into an edition of the Lesser Keys of Solomon, which is the most famous of all grimoires. It's more famous than the Grand Grimoire, it's more famous than the Greater Key, it's more famous than the Pullet or the Petit Albert or any of these others. It's an important work within the occult, even if it is technically 4 separate works. Sometimes 5. Again, do not use, if you're making an edition, do not include the Notoria or its shortened Ars Nova form. They are not from the same tradition. They are centuries older. So again, link in the description of my edition of this work on Amazon, second and third to my books blogs, where you can find a great deal more material. That's about all. Peace out.